Welcome to my channel. Today we dive into a story that travels beyond stars, where love blooms in the darkest places of the galaxy. This is the tale of a blind alien princess, the last heir of a fallen empire, and the human who saw her not as broken, but as something extraordinary. The galaxy had long forgotten the name of the royal house of Alindra. Once, her family ruled star systems. Now, their palaces floated as ruins among shattered moons. The last heir, Princess Liara, was born without sight, her eyes shimmering white like frozen glass. The nobles called her cursed, and every empire that once sought her alliance turned away. Alone in her palace of fading light, she walked through endless corridors guided only by whispers of memory, until one day, a Terran ship crash-landed near her moon. And with it came Captain Ryan Cole, a human soldier far from home, carrying scars from too many wars. When Ryan first met her, she stood at the edge of the marble balcony, facing the void. "Who walks in my silence?" she asked softly. He hesitated, his voice low. "Someone who shouldn't be alive, but maybe was meant to find you." Their conversations began as survival. He needed repairs for his ship. She needed company for her soul. But as nights passed under twin moons, something unspoken began to grow. He described the stars she could not see, tracing constellations on her palms with his fingertips. She listened to his heartbeat, saying it sounded like thunder in a peaceful storm. In a galaxy filled with noise, they found quiet in each other. Yet peace never lasts. The Council of Empires discovered Ryan's presence and declared him a trespasser. They feared what a Terran might bring. Humans were known for defying gods and rewriting laws. When soldiers arrived to arrest him, Liara stepped forward before her throne. "If you take him," she said, her voice trembling, "you take what's left of my heart." The guards froze. The blind heir, once silent, once forgotten, was standing tall against the universe itself. Ryan tried to protect her, but she wouldn't allow it. "You showed me the stars, human," she whispered. "Let me show them what light really means." The council ordered her execution for treason. But as their ships descended, the night sky burned with Terran war cruisers. Ryan had sent a signal before capture. No empire touches what humanity protects. The human commander's voice thundered across the comms. The galaxy watched in disbelief as Terran fleets shielded a blind alien princess. Amid chaos, Ryan broke free, rushing to her as the palace burned. "Can you see me now?" he asked, holding her face. She smiled faintly, tears glowing like silver. "No," she said, "but I feel you everywhere." When the dust settled, the empires that mocked her kneeled. The princess who couldn't see had become the light that united worlds. They rebuilt her home together, half Terran steel, half Alindran marble. Every morning, Ryan described the sunrise, and every night, she reminded him what it meant to have purpose beyond duty. Love, once forbidden, had changed not just their fates, but the course of civilizations. Her blindness no longer felt like a curse. It was a reminder that some things are seen not with eyes, but with the heart. Thank you for listening to this story. If it touched your heart or made you believe in love beyond stars, make sure to subscribe and join our channel for more tales of humanity, hope, and heart among the stars. Liara sat in silence inside her shattered palace, her delicate fingers tracing the cracks along the cold marble walls. Every sound was a memory, every echo a ghost. The Alindran Empire had once been powerful. Its banners stretched across galaxies, but now only dust and shadows remained. Her blindness had been the final curse, the reason the last few loyal nobles abandoned her. "A ruler who cannot see cannot lead," they said before leaving her behind. She would sit for hours listening to the hum of the stars beyond her glass dome, imagining colors she had never known. Her attendants had all fled, except for an old droid that still brought her meals and whispered softly, "My princess, you are not forgotten." But even the machine's comfort could not hide the loneliness that filled her nights. Then one evening, a thunderous crash split the silence. The air trembled, and the palace walls shook as something massive fell from the sky. Liara turned toward the sound, her heart pounding. Through the faint hiss of oxygen leaks and static, she heard a new rhythm, a human heartbeat, steady and strong, growing closer. "Identify yourself," she called, though her voice trembled slightly. The reply came rough and tired, carrying a strange warmth. "Name's Ryan Cole. My ship went down. I didn't mean to trespass." Liara tilted her head, her milky eyes catching the dim blue light of the corridor. She had never heard a Terran voice before. Humans were rare this deep in the galaxy. "You are far from your home, Terran," she said softly. Ryan laughed under his breath. "Yeah, story of my life." He didn't expect to find royalty here, much less a blind alien woman whose poise carried both sadness and fire. He noticed the way she stood perfectly straight despite her lack of sight, how her voice carried the kind of strength that only comes from surviving heartbreak. That night, the palace lights flickered weakly as he fixed a power conduit, while she sat nearby listening to his voice as he described the stars outside. "I wish I could see them," she said. "You don't need to," he replied gently. "You already sound like them." For the first time in years, Liara smiled. In that ruined hall of fading glory, something fragile but powerful sparked between them, something neither empire nor blindness could erase. Days passed, and the silence that once haunted the palace began to change. Ryan stayed to repair his ship, but every evening he found himself returning to Liara's side. She sat near the great glass dome overlooking the shattered moons, her sightless eyes glowing faintly in the dim starlight. He would tell her about Earth, about rain that smelled like life, oceans that roared louder than any starship, and forests where wind danced through the leaves. She listened like someone collecting dreams, her hands resting on his as if feeling each word through his skin. Sometimes, when he spoke of sunlight, she would lift her face toward the sky as if she could feel the warmth he described. "You see beauty in everything," she whispered once. "Even in ruins." Ryan smiled sadly. "That's because I've lived through too many of them." But not everyone in the galaxy welcomed his presence. Outside the dying moon, signals began to stir in the void. The remnants of rival empires had been watching, waiting for a reason to strike. The idea of a human soldier and the blind heir of Alindra together spread like wildfire through the communication networks. To them, it was a scandal, a disgrace that could shatter the fragile balance of politics. Liara began to hear whispers in the night, strange voices through broken channels, warning her that the council would come soon. Yet she refused to send Ryan away. "You gave me reason to live again," she said softly. "If they wish to take that, they'll have to take me too." Ryan felt torn. He was a soldier trained to survive, not to stay, not to love. But when he looked at her, this woman who had lost everything and still carried grace in her every breath, he knew he couldn't leave. He began reinforcing the palace defenses quietly, using what little tech remained. Late one night, he heard Liara humming an old royal melody, her voice trembling through the empty hall. "What does it mean?" he asked. She turned toward him, a faint smile on her lips. "It's a song of sight," she whispered. "Sung by those who see with the heart when the eyes can no longer serve." The closer they grew, the more dangerous their bond became. The council labeled Ryan an intruder and issued a bounty on his head. Drones began scanning the moon, and distant ships glowed like silent predators in orbit. Still, Ryan stayed. When Liara reached out her hand, he took it without hesitation. "You're not a curse," he told her. "You're the reason I remember what being human means." Her breath caught, and for the first time, she didn't feel blind. She felt seen. The storm began without warning. A fleet of black ships appeared in the upper atmosphere, their engines roaring like thunder across the desolate moon. Ryan saw them first through the cracked control window of his damaged ship, the insignia of the Galactic Council painted in burning gold. He knew what it meant. They had come for him, and for her. He ran through the marble halls, his boots echoing against stone as dust fell from the ceiling. "Liara," he called out. She was already standing in the grand hall, her long silver gown flowing behind her, eyes pale and calm as if she had known this moment would come. "They've arrived," she said quietly. "You must go before they see you." But Ryan shook his head, breath heavy with defiance. I'm not leaving you to face them alone. Outside, spotlights cut through the night like blades. The council soldiers landed, their voices harsh through the comms. By decree of the Galactic Council, the Terran intruder must surrender immediately. The blind heir will be escorted for questioning. Liara clenched her fists at those words. Blind heir. The title they had used to strip her of power. She lifted her chin and whispered, I am no one's prisoner. Ryan grabbed a blaster from the wreckage, taking cover near the pillars. He knew he couldn't fight an army, but he could buy her time. When I say run, you run, he said. You think I can't handle myself? She replied with a faint, brave smile. He almost laughed. Even now, even blind, she had more courage than any soldier he had known. When the doors burst open, the first blast tore through the chamber. Ryan returned fire, the air filling with the scent of ozone and smoke. Liara listened, every sound painting a picture in her mind. She could hear his movements, the soldiers' boots, the hum of weapons. And in that chaos, she walked straight toward the throne and activated an ancient Alindran beacon, a relic of her ancestors buried beneath centuries of dust. The room lit up with radiant blue light as energy surged through the walls. By my blood, she declared, her voice echoing through the ruins. I reclaim my birthright. The soldiers froze. Their scanners flickered. The palace itself began to awaken. Shields rising, old weapons humming to life. Ryan turned in awe as light wrapped around her, the old royal sigil glowing above her head. Liara, what are you doing? He shouted. Ending the silence, she said softly. For the first time, her world was filled with light she could not see but could feel warmth, power, and freedom. The council soldiers fell back, their systems overloading from the ancient tech. Ryan rushed to her, his hand finding hers amid the trembling walls. You'll bring this whole place down. She smiled, tilting her head toward him. Then we fall together. The palace roared as the energy pulsed outward, shattering the sky. In that blinding surge, a message was sent far beyond the moon, a Terran distress signal that would change everything. The distress signal reached deep into Terran space, across relays long thought dead. Within hours, Earth's outer fleets detected the ancient Alindran code interwoven with Ryan's military ID. It was a call for help, but it carried more. It carried her voice. To the Terran command, Liara said in the transmission. One of your own stands accused of love in a galaxy that has forgotten what it means. The message spread faster than any weapon. And when the council intercepted it, panic erupted. They realized too late that millions were now listening, and that humanity, the one species they tried to keep isolated, had heard the cry of their soldier and his blind princess. Back on the moon, the palace was collapsing. Smoke filled the air, metal groaned under the strain of energy discharges, and alarms screamed through the halls. Ryan pulled Liara close, wrapping his arm around her as the roof caved in behind them. Your signal reached them, he shouted. Help is coming. She shook her head. They will burn this place before they let anyone save us. He looked into her pale eyes, his own voice steady. Then let them come. Humans have a habit of arriving late, but never unarmed. Moments later, the night sky lit up with the arrival of Terran warships, vast silver vessels emerging from hyperspace like silent gods. The lead ship, TSS Valkyrie, positioned itself between the Council fleet and the moon, its cannons already charging. A single transmission echoed through every channel. By order of Terran High Command, you will stand down. No empire touches what humanity protects. The Council ships hesitated, their commanders arguing in fear. They had seen Terran fleets in battle before, precise, unstoppable, and merciless when provoked. Ryan and Liara stood together on the shattered balcony as fire and light clashed above them. He could feel her trembling, not from fear but from awe. They came for you, she whispered. No, he said softly. They came for us. The ground quaked as a council cruiser crashed into the valley below, engulfed in flames. Debris fell like meteors, but he held her tighter, shielding her with his body. The winds roared, carrying the sound of war and freedom together. Liara pressed her hand against his chest, feeling the thunder of his heartbeat. "What do you see now?" she asked. Ryan smiled faintly, eyes reflecting the burning skies. "A universe that finally knows your name." When the battle ended, silence returned. Not the lonely silence that haunted her before, but one filled with possibility. The Council fleet was gone, their pride shattered. The Terrans had proven again why the galaxy feared them, but this time, they had also shown why they were loved, because they fought not for power, but for one of their own, and for a love that defied every law written among the stars. Weeks passed after the battle, and the moon that once echoed with loneliness was now alive with rebuilding. Terran engineers worked beside Elindran artisans, fusing steel and crystal, repairing what had been lost. The palace no longer felt like a tomb, it was becoming a home. Liara moved through the halls with a quiet grace, her hand often resting on Ryan's arm as he guided her through the sunlight streaming from new skylights. She could not see the beauty around her, but she could feel it, the warmth on her skin, the hum of life in the walls, and the rhythm of his heartbeat close beside her. One morning, Ryan found her in the throne room, standing before the great glass window that looked out into space. "I've been thinking," she said softly. "All my life I was told I would never lead because I could not see. But maybe I was meant to lead differently." He smiled, folding his arms. "You already did, Liara. You made the galaxy listen without ever opening your eyes." She turned toward his voice, reaching up to touch his face. "And you," she whispered, "you made me see what no empire ever could." In that quiet moment, he kissed her, gently, reverently, as though afraid to break the fragile miracle they had found. The air between them seemed to hold its breath. When they finally pulled apart, she smiled faintly and said, "Do you think the stars are watching?" He laughed softly. "They better be after what we've done." Outside, Terran ships patrolled the void peacefully, their lights glimmering like guardians of a new dawn. As days turned into months, their story became legend. A human soldier and a blind alien heir who changed the course of history with nothing but faith and love. Empires began to send envoys, not with weapons but with hope, seeking the wisdom of the blind princess who saw with her heart. Humanity was no longer the outsider species, it was the bridge between worlds. And every night, when the stars rose and the palace lights dimmed, Ryan would take her hand and describe the constellations. She would listen, smiling, and say, "I can see them now." In that vast, silent galaxy, love had done what no fleet or empire ever could. It healed. Thank you for listening to this story. If you enjoyed this tale of love, courage, and humanity among the stars, don't forget to subscribe and join our channel for more powerful HFY stories where hearts burn brighter than galaxies themselves.